question and answer session. So the children might come and sit in front.
Join the retreat for today and tomorrow. There are about 70 of them here. Actually, and so we were going to invite them in, and they could probably sit in the front right now, and then the people who are sitting right in front could come back when the children have left. Just the first 20 minutes or so will be for the children. And if you don't have enough space for children, the children might sit on the stage also. So the people sitting in front, if you don't mind going out or going somewhere, then the children can sit right in front. If somebody could just call her. Many of the children don't speak English, and we would like the translator who could.
No chanting today. No. Someone will translate for Thai from English. Okay, please come. Good morning, dear Sangha. Earlier this year, we had a retreat in Italy with 900 adults and more than 100 children. The retreat was in Rome.
गुड मॉर्निंग, नमस्ते आप सबका। और इस साल के शुरू में हमने एक और रिट्रीट किया था जिसमें 900 बड़े लोग थे और 100 बच्चे थे।
And I gave them homework.
और हमने उनको होमवर्क दिया था। होमवर्क, गृह कार्य,
Exercise, both adults and children.
सबको, बड़ों को भी और बच्चों को भी।
They are invited to take a seed of corn and to plant in a small pot and water every day.
उनको मक्का, कॉर्न का एक बीज लेके उसे पार्क में बोया उन्होंने और उसे रोज पानी दिया।
And about 3 weeks later, when the young plant of corn is already manifested,
और 3 हफ्ते के बाद जब वो छोटा सा मक्का निकलने लगता है, उगने लगा,
and you come and talk to the young plant of corn.
और फिर उन्होंने जाके उससे बात किया, वो जो छोटा सा पौधा निकल रहा था, नन्हा सा।
And you go ask the young plant of corn that already 2 or 3 leaves this question.
और वो जो पौधा था जिसके 2 या 3 पत्ते उग आए थे, उससे ये सवाल पूछते थे।
Dear young plant of corn, do you remember the time you were a seed of corn?
उससे ये सवाल करते थे, ओ नन्हे से पौधे मक्के के, तुम्हें वो वक्त याद है जब तुम सिर्फ एक बीज थे?
And after you have asked the question, you try to listen to get an answer.
और जब ये
Time earlier, she was a
कि वो किसी वक्त एक नन्हा सा बीज था।
and she may ask me, a seed of corn? I don't remember.
और हो सकता है वो पूछे मुझसे, मैं बीज मक्के का, मुझे तो याद नहीं।
But you, who are the person who has planted the seed of corn, you know that the young plant of corn was a seed of corn.
लेकिन आप जिन्होंने वो बीज लगाया, आपको याद है कि वो एक बीज था।
In fact, that morning I asked my attendant to go to a store, grocery store nearby, and buy 2 bags of corn seeds.
और उस दिन सुबह मैंने अपने असिस्टेंट को कहा था कि आप दुकान जाओ, किराने की दुकान, और 2 बैग मक्के के बीजों का लेके आना.
They are not popcorns. They are seeds of corn are still alive.
वो पॉपकॉर्न नहीं है, वो बीज है मक्के के जिसमें जान है, जिंदगी है.
And we distributed to everyone in the retreat, each person 2 or 3 seeds of corn, to be sure that one of them will sprout and become a corn stalk.
और हमने वो रिट्रीट में जितने भी लोग थे, बड़े बच्चे, सबको बांटा. सबको 2 या 3 बीज, हो सकता है उनमें से एक ही उग सके, जग सके.
And after the end of the retreat, I went back to France.
और जब वो रिट्रीट खत्म हो गया तो मैं फ्रांस वापस चला गया.
And many of them, including children, have written me letters to report about how they practice with the seed of corn.
और कई लोगों ने, बच्चों ने भी खत लिखा ये बताने के लिए कि उनके पौधे कैसे उग रहे हैं, क्या हालत है उनकी.
And several of them even took a picture of the grain of corn before planting.
और कईयों ने तो तस्वीरें भी खींची बीज की लगाने से पहले.
And also a picture of the grain of corn that has already sprouted and has put forth 1 and 2 leaves.
और उन छोटे पौधों की भी जिनके 1 या 2 पत्ते उग आए, तब के भी.
And during the Dharma talk, I told the children and the adults that every one of us, there was a time when every one of us was a very tiny seed in the womb of our mother.
और मैंने उस वक्त उस रिट्रीट में बच्चों से भी ये बात किया कि एक समय ऐसा था जब हम सब एक छोटे से बीज थे हमारे मम्मियों के पेट के अंदर.
The mother, the day when your mother conceived you in her womb, you were very tiny, very small, much smaller than a seed of corn.
जिस दिन आप अपने मम्मी के पेट में पैदा हुए थे, जब आपकी मम्मी ने आपको जना था अपने पेट में, तो आप एक कॉर्न के बीज से भी छोटे थे, एक मक्के के बीज से भी बहुत छोटे थे.
But you continue to grow every day, and your mother tried to help you to grow.
और आप हर दिन बढ़ते गए, बड़े होते गए, और आपकी मम्मी ने अपने पेट में आपको उगने दिया.
Everything she eat goes into you. Everything she drink went into you.
उन्होंने जो भी खाया वो आपके अंदर चला गया. उन्होंने जो कुछ पिया वो भी आपके अंदर चला गया.
And the day when the doctor told her that you were there inside of her, she was so happy.
और जिस दिन डॉक्टर ने आपकी मम्मी को बताया कि आप उनके पेट में हो, तो वो बहुत खुश हुई.
And your father also was so happy.
आपके पिताजी भी बहुत खुश हुए.
And he began to take care of your mother in a very special way.
और उन्होंने आपकी मम्मी का ध्यान खास तौर से रखना शुरू किया.
He said, "Darling, don't carry very heavy things."
और वो बहुत ध्यान से, बहुत खुशी से ध्यान रखने लगे.
"Darling, don't watch television with a lot of violence because that will go into our child."
उन्होंने कहा, टीवी में बहुत लड़ाई झगड़े वाली चीज़ें मत देखना, क्योंकि वो लड़ाई झगड़ा, हिंसा, वो भी हमारे बच्चे के अंदर चला जाएगा.
And your father was very gentle to your mother. He did not say He did not shout at her. He did not make her angry, because he knew that if he make her suffer, and the suffering will go directly to you, inside of her.
और आपके पिताजी ने अपनी की मम्मी का बहुत ख़ास तरीके से ध्यान रखा. उन्होंने कोशिश किया कि वो कभी नाराज़ ना हो, कभी गुस्सा ना हो, कभी दुखी ना हो, और उनके लिए ख़ास खाना बनाते थे रात में, ताकि वो खाना सीधे आपके अंदर चला जाए.
Your mother was aware that you were in her. That is why she did not drink alcohol. She did not smoke, because she knew that if she smoke and drink alcohol, that will go directly to you and that will harm you.
और उनको ये भी पता था आपकी माँ को कि आप वहाँ हो, जिंदा हो, इसलिए उन्होंने शराब नहीं पिया, उन्होंने सिगरेट भी नहीं पिया, क्योंकि अगर वो पीती तो वो भी सीधे आपके अंदर चला जाता.
And when you are big enough in her, from time to time, you give a kick to remind that you are there.
जब आप थोड़े से और बड़े हो गए तो आप ऐसे लात मारते थे हल्के से, अपनी माँ को याद दिलाने के लिए कि आप वहाँ हो.
And your mother smiled and said, "Darling, I know you are there, and I'm very happy."
और आपकी माँ मुस्कुराती और कहती, हाँ मुझे पता है तुम हो, और मैं बहुत खुश हूँ कि तुम हो.
There is a kind of cord that link you to your mother. It's called the umbilical cord.
एक आप दोनों में जुड़ाव है, अम्बिलिकल कॉर्ड कहते हैं. एक पाइप जैसा होता है जो आप दोनों को जोड़ता है.
When your mother breathes, the oxygen come into her, and through the umbilical cord, the oxygen come to you.
से नाभि कहते हैं, नाल. और जब आपकी माँ सांस लेती थी, उस नाल से आपके अंदर ऑक्सीजन आ जाता था.
When she eat, or when she drink, the food and the drink go to you through the umbilical cord.
और उस नाल से जब वो खाना खाती या कुछ भी पीती, वो भी आपके अंदर आ जाता.
And you know something, the umbilical cord is a link between you and your mother. Without that, your mother cannot feed you and help you to grow.
और वो जो नाल है, वो आपके और आपके मम्मी के बीच में एक जुड़ाव है, रिश्ता है. अगर वो नहीं होता तो आपकी मम्मी आपको खाना नहीं खिला सकती थी पेट के अंदर, पानी भी नहीं पिला सकती थी, सांस भी नहीं दे सकती थी.
But the moment when you were born, the nurse cut the umbilical cord.
लेकिन जैसे ही आप पैदा हुए, बाहर आए अपनी मम्मी के पेट से, नर्स ने वो नाल काट दिया.
And apparently you become independent from your mother.
और कहने को आप अपनी माँ से अलग हो गए, आज़ाद हो गए, स्वतंत्र हो गए.
But yet you are still depend on your mother a lot. You have to take the milk from her. You have to rely on her in order to continue to grow.
लेकिन फिर भी आप अपने माँ से जुड़े हुए थे, उन पे आश्रित थे, क्योंकि आप उनसे दूध पीते थे, वो आपका ध्यान रखती थी कि आप बड़े हों.
And although the umbilical cord is no longer there, you are very deeply linked to your mother.
हालांकि वो नाल नहीं है, लेकिन फिर भी आप बहुत गहरे तरीके से अपनी माँ से जुड़े हुए हैं.
There is no umbilical cord linking you to your father, but you are in fact very deeply linked to your father.
हालांकि आपके पिताजी और आपके बीच में तो ऐसा कोई नाल नहीं है, लेकिन फिर भी आप अपने पिताजी से बहुत गहरे तरीके से जुड़े हैं,
Because without that umbilical cord linking you to your father, how can you come to being? Because your mother alone cannot bring you to life.
क्योंकि उस जुड़ाव के बिना, उस रिश्ते के बिना आप इस दुनिया में आते ही कैसे? आपके पिताजी के बिना आप यहाँ कैसे होते? क्योंकि आपकी माँ अपने आप से तो आपको नहीं जन्म दे सकती, आप बनते ही नहीं अगर पिताजी नहीं होते तो।
And that is why I propose that next time when you draw a baby yourself and your mother, you draw an umbilical cord.
अगली बार जब आप तस्वीर बनाओ, ड्राइंग करो किसी बच्चे का अपना, तो अपनी मम्मी से जुड़ा हुआ वो नाल भी ड्रॉ करना, उसका भी चित्र बनाना।
And after that you draw another umbilical cord linking you to your father.
फिर एक नाल बनाना जो आपको आपके पिताजी से जोड़े।
Because that umbilical cord linking you to your father, although it's not visible, but it is there.
हालांकि वो वाला नाल हमें दिखाई नहीं देता, वो अदृश्य है, दिखता नहीं है, लेकिन वो है।
There are things that ordinary people cannot see, but practitioners of meditation can see, like the umbilical cord linking you to your father.
कई ऐसी चीज़ें हैं जो आम तौर से आम लोगों को दिखाई नहीं देती, लेकिन वो लोग जो मेडिटेट करते हैं, जो प्रैक्टिस करते हैं, उनको कई चीज़ें दिखाई देती हैं, जैसे आपको आपके पिताजी से जोड़ता हुआ वो नाल।
And after that you can draw other umbilical cord linking you to the tree, to the river, to the cloud. Because without the tree, you have no oxygen to breathe. Without the river, you have no water to drink. So you have an umbilical cord linking you to everything in the cosmos.
उसके बाद आप और चित्र बना सकते हैं एक पेड़ का, और उससे भी आपकी नाल जुड़ी हुई है, एक नदी का, उससे भी आपकी नाल जुड़ी हुई है, क्योंकि नदी नहीं होता तो पानी नहीं होता, पेड़ के बिना ऑक्सीजन नहीं होता, फिर आप कैसे होते?
When you look at the tree, you can see the link between you and the tree. You know that if the tree is not there, you have no oxygen to breathe, and therefore you can draw an umbilical cord linking you to the tree.
जब आप किसी पेड़ को देखो तो ध्यान से देखोगे तो वो नाल दिखेगा, वो पेड़ नहीं होता तो ऑक्सीजन नहीं होता सांस लेने के लिए, तो फिर आप भी नहीं होते, इसलिए वो नाल, उसे भी ड्रॉ करो।
And imagine, visualize that there are 1 million umbilical cords linking us not only to our mother, our father, but to the cloud, to the sun, to the moon, to the earth.
कल्पना करो जो आपको सिर्फ
The baby to everything in the cosmos.
एक बच्चा और वो दुनिया के गुणों
think today we will ask one of our volunteers to go to the grocery store and buy some seeds of corn, so that tomorrow everyone will have a few seeds of corn and continue our homework after we finish the retreat.
कोशिश करेंगे कि किसी किराने की दुकान पे जाएं और कॉर्न के बीज ले आए मक्के के, ताकि कल सब लोग ले जाएं और अपना होमवर्क हम लोग करें.
Tomorrow there will be a short Dhamma talk for young people like today, but now the Dhamma talk is ended because we are going to have a sessions of questions and answers.
आप सबसे छोटे बच्चों से मिलेंगे, बातचीत करेंगे, लेकिन आज हम यहीं पे खत्म करेंगे क्योंकि हमें कुछ और काम भी करना है. सेशन है एक और.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Have a good day.
Goodbye. अच्छा नहीं हुआ आपका. शुभकामनाएं.
You may like to stand up and bow. Is a question that has to do with our practice, with our happiness, with our suffering. And a good question always benefit many people. So please ask the question of your heart. Those of us who have a question are invited to come up and sit close to Thầy. And they will take turn to sit on this chair, so that everyone can see him or her. And the practice is that before you ask the question, the bell master will invite the bell to sound, and everyone will practice breathing in and out and enjoy 3 in breaths and 3 out breaths. And then the question will be asked. And everybody knows that a good question does not have to be very long. A question is not a statement. You might like to ask a question for someone else who cannot come today. You might like to write down the question on a piece of paper and ask someone to bring to the floor. From time to time, we will take a question that has been written down. So please, in Plum Village, we always allow the children to ask the first questions. But because our children just come today, so that is why we gave them one short Dhamma talk instead of letting them asking questions. And the young people the teenagers are always encouraged to come and ask their questions first. So please come. Come sit with us here.
And those who want to go outside, watching on the screen, if you'd like to ask questions, you can come.
Right.
Sit inside here.
The exercise of being mindful, breathing in and breathing out, even the last few days that I've learned, is extremely useful. But I've also found that in the daily life, it seems extremely difficult to maintain. I noticed it for my children. I would love them to do it. They were young working people. How do we keep that pace of mindfulness, which gives so much to us? It seems difficult to combine it with daily life. How do we do it?
It is an art to be cultivated. And that is why we should learn how to drive our car in mindfulness. When you drive your car, you are allowed. You can enjoy your in-breath and out-breath and smile. When you walk from one building to another building, you can enjoy breathing in and out and bring attention to your steps. And during the time you work, you can from time to time stop and look at the other person and smile to him or to her and enjoy one in-breath or out-breath. And there are those of us who program our computer so that every 15 minutes the computer will offer a sound of the bell. And we stop, enjoy breathing in and out. So we have to invent ways in order to go home to ourselves and enjoy the fact that you are alive, that we should not lose ourselves too much in the work. Thank you. Please come and sit close here. Please come and sit in a line of 10, 15 people here and take your turn to sit up.
Our country is passing through troubled times today. There is violence in speech, thought and action. There is mindlessness all around, including in our development,
our governance and our activism. How do we inspire the will to listen, to be listened among such large numbers of angry and unhappy?
We have to begin it with ourselves. Should practice so that we can already begin to listen to the people close to us. And we need to practice at least a few days in order to be able to listen. Because if we have so much worries and anger and fear in here, we cannot listen. So we should begin with ourselves. And I think a few hours later, we can already start something. We listen to him, to her, close to us, and try to understand the suffering. And when the other people around us have felt a relief, suffer less, invite them to do the same thing like us. And like that we can spread the peace, the compassion, the willingness to listen to other people. There's no other way. Yeah. This begins with myself. Thank you. One question in written form, please.
Isolated and discriminated against in society. Our society only waters seeds of academic achievement. I feel very helpless with the pain and suffering in these children. And another friend asked, what is the best way to respond to violence in a child's art or writing?
I think the best way is to create an opportunity for the child to have a taste of love, a taste of peace. And that can be offered by you. In the beginning, the child may not be able to notice, to recognize that you do have compassion and peace to offer. But with patience, he or she will have a chance. And many of us are hungry of understanding and love. And we are so suspicious that love and understanding do not exist in this world. So even with those who really have understanding and compassion to offer, they still suspect that it's not true. So you have to be very patient. There will be a time, a moment, when the other person recognizes that love and understanding is something that exists. We do have some understanding and compassion to offer, but the other person does not have the capacity to receive. And the only way is to wait, because patience is integral part of compassion. If you are really compassionate, you are also patient. You can wait. And there are young people who wander around like a hungry ghost. Hungry ghosts are still alive. Thousands of them, hundreds of thousands of them. They are all around us. They are very hungry of understanding, of love. They have not found it because in the family they did not find it. In school they did not find it. In society they didn't find it. So now they come and you have a chance to offer them. But they don't have the capacity to receive. You know right away that this is a hungry ghost. A young man, a young woman, the way she walks around proves that she is a hungry ghost, seeking for love and understanding. The way that young man walk and sit proves that he is a hungry ghost. And our society produces many hungry ghosts every day. I have met quite a number of hungry ghosts. And when they come to our center, we recognize them right away by the way they walk, they sit, they behave. And I knew that for these people, you have to be very patient. By the way of talking to them, reacting to them, you continue to express your tenderness, your gentleness, your compassion. And if that person can stick to the environment for a week or so, there may be a chance for him or for her to acknowledge the fact that finally compassion is something that does exist. It's difficult, but it's still possible. And for children, we know that we have to be patient. They have not had their chance in family, in school. And now they come to you. And you can play the role of a father, a mother, a big sister, a big brother, or a school teacher that can help touch the seed of joy, happiness, and love that are still in him or in her. And I think those of us who are motivated by that desire to help should sit down together and discuss the strategy, the methods of how to help children who suffer, young people who suffer. And help them to receive some for their nourishment. In the Buddhist tradition, they depict hungry ghosts as someone who has a very big belly, empty stomach, and the throat is tiny like a needle. Although the hunger is very big, but the power to absorb food, to receive food, is very tiny. And that is the Buddhist expression of a hungry ghost. Thank you.
till the time. This is a very difficult question. When I was a little boy, I was abused by many people who were very close to me, to my family. And to this day, that experience affects every relationship I'm in. I'm not able to really give love or to accept it. And I'm not able to express love unless it's physically, and even then, it's not really love. And I really want to heal this, but I don't know how. I've struggled with it for a long time, and I want to let go of it, but I can't.
There is a practice that can help us out of the situation. And that is the practice of great aspiration. To make a strong vow, and by living by that vow. If I have been a victim of abuse, if I suffer because of that, I can look at other children, and I see that the children that I see may be also victims of abuse. If not in the past, they may be victims of in the future. And I don't want them to be like me. And I have the desire to protect them from the abuse of the adult and so on. And so when you look at the children who are still innocent and who may become victims of abuse, you may have that kind of feeling of compassion, of willingness to protect them. And you say, my life, what shall I do with my life? And the question is that your life can be used in order to protect children. I do have a mission because I have suffered. That is why I have understood. So I want to use my life in order to do something good. I want to protect children. I want to protect them from abuse. And I will use my life in order to do so. You make a strong commitment, a strong aspiration. And you can make it in the presence of a community like this one. Please witness, my dear friends, from now on, I will use my life in order to defend, protect, and fight for the children, not let them become victims. And the moment when you make that vow, the healing will take place right away in yourself. And you should prepare so that you have means in order to realize what you want to do. And you should seek ally around you, those who are with the same kind of willingness with you, so that you are strong enough in order to continue this kind of work. And you become a bodhisattva, someone who lives with a lot of compassion, trying to help the world. And in the tradition of Buddhism, there are many of us have transformed our suffering just by making a strong vow like that. Kshitigarbha is one bodhisattva like that. You know, I met an American war veteran in a retreat, and he confessed to us after many days of struggling, they had killed 5 children in Vietnam during the war, out of anger. The week before, many friends of his in his military unit was killed by the guerrilla. So he wanted to retaliate. And he put explosive in the sandwiches and left a box of sandwiches like that at the gate of the village. And 5 children came and discovered the bag of sandwiches, and they ate. And after that, they died. He was there hidden. He saw the children eating the sandwich with explosives. And when the children yelled for help, their parents came out and tried to help. But he knew that nothing can be done to help the children survive, because the next city is very far. Even if you have a car, you cannot transport them on time to the hospital. And when he went back to America, he was obsessed by that act that he had taken. And day and night, he could not forgive himself for having done such a thing out of anger, the willingness to retaliate. And every time he saw himself sitting with children, he could not bear it. He had to run out of the room until the day he came to our retreat. And after many days of struggle, he was able to tell the story. He did not dare to tell the story to anyone. I helped him. After having heard the story, I helped him. I said, okay, you have killed 5 children. And you are not able to live your life now. I will offer you a way out. There are now children who are dying in this very moment, not only in the third world, but even in America itself. Sometimes a child needs only one tablet of medicine in order to survive, but they are too poor in order to buy that tablet of medicine. And you are in a position to give that child a tablet of medicine that he needs. And you can save 5 children a day. Even in America, not to say in the third world. Why don't you use your life in order to do the work of saving children? You have killed 5, but you can save 50 or more. And the moment when he understood that, the healing began to take place in him. And he made the vow to use his life in order to save children. So making a great vow is a very, very effective, strong practice. And if you make that vow to protect children from abuse, and then you get the healing, and you get the joy to live, and you nourish your compassion, your understanding. Good luck. Good luck. Thank you.
Thai Buddhism talks about the fact that if you're attached, you suffer, but a lot of life is based on relationships. So how does one maintain the balance between having relationships and not being attached and not suffering?
About attachment, when you love someone, you are attached to him or to her, and you suffer. And you may arrive at the conclusion not to love is better. I think love is something that makes life meaningful. Love helps you to be alive. But we have to learn how to love. Because true love will not cause suffering to oneself and to the other people. And the Buddhist teaching on love is very clear. Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upeksha. I have written a book with the title Teachings on Love. You may like to consult that book. Suppose you practice meditating on impermanence. Impermanence. Everything is changing. You change every minute, every second, and the other person also changes every minute, every second. And while loving him, loving her, you keep the insight of impermanence alive. And if we are really aware that everything is impermanent, and then we would be able to do what we can do today in order to make him or her happy. You don't wait until tomorrow, because tomorrow may be too late. So loving with the insight of impermanence, you can love more deeply. And knowing that things are impermanent, you will not suffer very much the day he is no longer there, because you already have the insight of impermanence. And true love is the kind of love that brings joy, that can relieve the suffering. And when you love in that way, happiness and joy will be possible every moment. And if you go in the right direction, you see that your love for him or for her should grow, in order to include other people. Because you are in love, that is our chance also. Because if your love grows, and then we will profit from your love. And that is why we need upeksha. Upeksha means inclusiveness. Your love is going to include other people, if it is true love. So if you love him or her properly, your love will grow and then will include us into your love. And that is the meaning of upeksha. You don't eliminate anyone. You love in such a way that more and more your heart becomes larger and larger, and that includes everything. The Buddha gave a very beautiful example. Suppose I hold a glass of water like this with a handful of salt, and I put the salt in the water and stir, and the water becomes too salty to drink. But if we throw the handful of salt into the water, into the river will not get salty, and people can still drink the water in the river. So if your heart is small, anything can make you suffer, irritated. But if your heart is big, and then small things like that will not make you suffer anymore. And that is the teaching of the Buddha on love. Love in such a way that your heart grow every day. And when your heart grow like that, you will suffer less and less. Your happiness increase. And your heart, when your heart is big, you include other people. And everyone become the object of your love. And you don't suffer anymore. He or she will be seen. He'll continue. Because even when you look deeply into the nature of reality, you see that nothing is going to die. Everything will continue in one form or another. So in true love, you don't see death, you don't see separation, because your object, your love will always be there in one form or another. So in true love, there is deep insight, and because you have deep insight, you don't suffer. And that is why you are no longer, if you grow in your love, and then attachment is no longer a problem. You don't suffer because you can see him or her everywhere. Not only in this life, but in the next life also. You are no longer afraid. So to love is an art. And with true love, you can deepen your understanding, your insight. And you can bring a lot of happiness, not only to you, to him, to her, but to many other people. Thank you.
The dilemma is of compassion. When you feel for others, you go out in India and at every crossing, at every place, you find so much of suffering. So when you have compassion, you suffer. When you think for others, that's what Buddha also did. He suffered, he felt the pain of others. Now you teach that we should also be happy. If you are suffering, how can you be happy? When you suffer, when you feel the pain of others, you feel the pain. And when you feel the pain, it's difficult to be happy. I just wanted to ask you this and get your guidance and advice.
This is a problem of semantics. The word karuna is translated in English by compassion. And compassion means to suffer with. The prefix com means together with. When you see someone suffer, you share his suffering, her suffering. You suffer with him or with her. That means compassion. But that is not a very good translation. Suppose you are a doctor, and when a patient comes with his or her disease, you feel, and because you have the talent, the knowledge of a doctor, you understand the suffering, and you are capable of trying to help your patient coming out of the suffering. You can be a compassionate doctor, and a doctor should always be compassionate. But you don't have to suffer with the same disease with the children, your patient. If the patient cough a lot, you don't have to cough with him. If you cough with him, you cannot be a doctor, a good doctor. So you should not suffer. If you suffer, you cannot help your patients.
The doctors who suffer.
Yeah, understanding the suffering. I think there are doctors who suffer. There are doctors who suffer less. But doctors are supposed to have compassion, understanding. And if doctors don't have understanding and compassion, they cannot help many people. And with understanding and compassion, doctors will suffer less, much less. In fact, that those of us who have compassion suffer much less than those who don't. You have to remember that. Yeah. With understanding and compassion, we suffer much less. And because of that, we can help many people more. So, compassion makes happiness possible. And compassion is not possible without understanding. How can you understand? How can you love? How can you be compassionate if you don't understand the suffering of the person in front of you? It is by understanding the suffering and the difficulty of that person that you can have compassion to him or to her. That is why you can say very clearly that compassion is born from understanding. Understanding is, first of all, understanding of the suffering. And there is a relationship between suffering and happiness. It's very close. If there is no suffering, we cannot learn from suffering in order to become understanding and compassionate. That's why suffering is needed. Suffering is needed for us to learn in order to become understanding and compassionate. Suffering is like the mud. And with the mud you can grow lotus flower. Without the mud, no lotus flower is possible. The same thing is true with happiness. Happiness cannot be there if suffering is not there. It is by understanding suffering that compassion becomes possible. And without compassion, no happiness can be obtained. And that is why we should not try to run away from suffering. We should learn how to hold suffering tenderly and look deeply in order to learn from suffering. And when we have learned from suffering, our understanding arises, our compassion arises, and we become a happy person. So having compassion does not mean to suffer. Having compassion means you have a chance to be happy. And that is why we can speak of the goodness of suffering. And in the kingdom of God, if there is no suffering, then how can we learn in order to become understanding and compassionate? So we need suffering. Each of us need a certain dose of suffering in order to learn. But we don't have to create more suffering because we have more than enough suffering already. And what is important here is to see the non-dualistic nature of both suffering and happiness. This cannot be without the other, like the left and the right. If the right is not there, the left is not there either. So if politically you are on the left, don't wish for the right to disappear. Because the right is there, that is why you can be on the left. The same thing is true with suffering and happiness. And if you have that insight, non-dualistic insight about suffering and happiness, you begin to understand what is real suffering and what is real happiness. Thank you.
In a very fast city, Delhi, and I'm isolated and lonely, which is making me old faster. How can I handle my old age and loneliness? And when are you coming to Delhi again?
I'm now in Delhi. Present moment. Wonderful moment. You are old or you are still young, that depends very much on you. The essential is that you can feel young. Feel young. And I think, again, compassion is the only thing that helps us not to feel lonely. And to practice compassion is not difficult. It's possible. If you understand the suffering around you, you are motivated by doing something or saying something in order to help them to suffer a little bit less. And by doing so, you relate with other people and you are not lonely anymore. And this can be done today. And you feel younger if you can relate to other people. Thank you. The children also, they have that feeling of loneliness, like adults. There is a vacuum inside of every one of us. And we don't want to go back to ourselves. We are afraid that we will encounter that kind of emptiness, that kind of vacuum inside. Not to say that there are blocks of pain and sorrow and fear here, and we don't want to come back in order to confront directly the suffering. That is why we try always to run away from ourselves and try to read something, to watch something, to do something in order to cover up our suffering. And that is what most of us are doing. Not only the young people, but the less young people, we are doing the same thing. We try to run away from the reality of suffering. Like listening to the news. In fact, we don't need to listen to the news twice a day, because we don't have other things to do. That is why we listen to the news in the morning, and we listen to the news also in the afternoon. Because there is nothing, we don't want to go home to ourselves. That is why we need to pick up a newspaper and turn on our television. So you have to realize that there is a need to cover up, to run away. And that is why we come in touch with the news. I think it's possible just to read the Sunday edition only. And there were times when 3 months, 6 months, I did not read a newspaper, and I survived. If anything really important happened, and then there will be someone calling and telling me about that. So we don't need to read newspaper and to watch the news every day. That's what we can do, and our children can do also. The other thing is we have to find ways in order to be in touch with other events that are more positive. There are television channels that offer a lot about nature, trees, birds, and landscape, and things like that. And we and our children can learn a lot from these channels on education. And you can organize retreats like this. When we don't listen to the bad things, we just listen to the things that water the seed of understanding and love. We can create positive, beautiful things to consume, for us to consume and for our children to consume. If you are an artist and then compose, make the kind of music, the kind of painting, the kind of poetry that can help people touch the seeds of joy and peace and so on. And if you are members of the parliament, you have to sit down and discuss about how to make the kind of law that prohibit the production and the circulation of items of culture that can bring toxins into the body and the mind of the public. And I think this is possible, because as far as food and drink is concerned, our government always try to forbid the items of consumption that has toxin in it. We have to do the same with control items, books, films, music, and so Many people, in the name of freedom, are trying to get rich by producing these highly toxic items. And with some awakening, with our collective awakening, we can support our legislators to make that kind of law and help educate people so that people will support that kind of practice. Like to end smoking is a very good thing. And as a school teacher, as an artist, you can help also with that. And there are those who have a hard time quit smoking, so you may find ways in order to help. So there are many concrete things that we can do right today. But we need the time to sit down and to tell each other and to write down the things that we can do right beginning today in order to change the situation. And that is why I always say that the fifth mindfulness training on mindful consumption is a very important practice to bring us out of this situation. Consume a lot of violence and craving and anger and fear and despair. And that is why everyone, not only educators, but also politicians and others, artists, filmmakers, have to come and help educate people on the practice of mindful consumption. We already have a lot of fear, anger, despair here to transform. If we continue to absorb more of these things, how can we transform the things that are already here? So the Dhamma talk yesterday was about that. Mindful consumption to protect us and our society, family, and then the practice of listening deeply, using mindfulness to understand and to transform. All these things can be done collectively as a family, as a community, as a nation. Thank you. I think we have to organize our day with intelligence so that we have the time in order to restore ourselves and protect ourselves. Suppose we talk about telephone, our portable telephone. How many telephone-free hours you can enjoy every day? You have to give yourself a few hours without telephone, and you have the right. You can turn off your telephone at least 3, 5, 6 hours a day. And you can enjoy your telephone-free hours, and you restore yourself during that time. Or you can allow yourself walking meditation every day, 15, 20 minutes, walking from this place to the other place, and enjoy every moment, every step. These are very nourishing, healing practice that can sustain us. And then we should make it make it possible for other people who work with us to understand that every one of us need to protect ourselves from stress, from tension, and therefore we can draw up a kind of daily schedule that can help us realize that. When you listen really with compassion, not only about what the other person wished to tell you, but you listen in a way that can bring a relief, can help the other person suffer less. The other person may need only the time to tell you what she or he needs, but that does not help her to suffer less. That person suffers less only when you have understood not only their need, but their suffering, their difficulties. So when someone feels that he or she is understood by you, they will feel grateful to you, and they will be able to listen to you because you have listened to them, and they will find that you also have difficulties, and you do have your own needs to sustain yourself. And if the other person understands that, well, and then you profit from that understanding. He is no longer demanding always like before, because now he has understood that you also have your own need, your own difficulties. And that makes the situation much easier. Because this is a both way and not just a one way listening or practice. Thank you. is the Sangha a prerequisite? Yeah, yeah, and then
Does destiny have anything to do with enlightenment?
destiny. The Sangha can be very helpful. And the family can become a Sangha. Your work team can be a Sangha if you know how to build a Sangha. With the Sangha, the practice becomes easier, more natural. There are those of us who can begin without a Sangha, like the Buddha. At one time, his friends left him because they did not approve of his new techniques of practice. But after enlightenment, the Buddha went to see them and make them into his Sangha. Even after you have become a Buddha, you still need a Sangha. A Buddha should continue the practice to nourish his Buddhahood, to keep being a Buddha. So the Buddha also needs a Sangha. And that is why after enlightenment, the Buddha went to find his friends in order to set up the first group of Sangha. And he was an excellent Sangha builder. And he included many sort of people into his Sangha. I think Sangha can bring a lot of happiness. Building Sangha can bring a lot of happiness. And if there is a Sangha, many people can take refuge. So Sangha is a real jewel. And many people can take refuge in the Sangha and maintain the practice alive. And the best way to build a Sangha is to be a model, element of the Sangha. You know the art of deep listening, loving speech. You try to understand the difficulties and the suffering of other people in the Sangha. And then you can build a Sangha. You cannot build a Sangha just by using telephone, emails, and your talent of organizing. No. Enlightenment is a daily, should be our daily business. And with enlightenment, we can change our karma, our destiny. And we should understand enlightenment as something simple, not far away. And enlightenment can be realized at any moment of our daily life. Many people are seeking enlightenment, and they think that enlightenment is something that they can earn in 5 years or 10 years. But in fact, enlightenment is right there, accessible in the here and the now. With being a good practitioner, you can get enlightenment every moment of your daily life. To be enlightened is always to be enlightened about something. Like to understand means always to understand something. It's easy. So when you practice mindful breathing, you can come to the enlightenment, to the awakening that you are alive. Because someone who is breathing is alive. And to be alive is already an enlightenment. To know that you are alive is already an enlightenment, because so many people live like dead people. They don't know that they are alive. Most of people live like that without the awareness that they are alive. And that is why the French novelist Albert Camus said that they live like a dead man, dead woman, because there is no mindfulness, there is no enlightenment. You are, but you ignore the fact that you are. So to realize that you are alive, you are there on earth, that is already one form of enlightenment. And you can smile to that, and you can enjoy the enlightenment that you are alive. When you look at the other person very close to you, you realize that she is there, she is alive, she is accessible to you. And you are no longer caught in your forgetfulness, distraction. And that is enlightenment. When you drink the tea, and if you are fully present in the here and now, the tea reveals itself as something real also. And you know that you are drinking tea, not drinking your sorrow, your fear, your projects. That is only enlightenment. And each moment of enlightenment brings its own happiness and joy and compassion. So practicing mindfulness, we can get enlightened moment after moment. And small enlightenment coming together will bring greater enlightenment. And enlightenment is possible. And with enlightenment, with mindfulness, we can change ourselves, we can change the world. We can bring more peace and love. And this is an art of living in mindfulness, the art of living. And it's possible that we set up a group of friends and live according to the spirit of mindfulness. And we can call it a community of mindful living. And we have helped set up thousands of groups like that in the world. It would be nice, wonderful if in Delhi we set up a few dozens of groups like that to bring peace and joy, enlightenment, happiness into our daily life. Thank you.
First of all, I am grateful to the organizers for giving me this opportunity to attend this such a magical interaction. And I would like to share and seek your advice on something. God gave me everything at a very young age because I was very hard. At the age of 35, I felt I had achieved everything. Then I became inactive. Now after coming here, I feel rejuvenated and transformed, and I would like to contribute for myself, my family, and for the society. So this is the greatest thing which I have achieved from here. Now I think why it happened, so if you could guide me, because when you achieve something at a very young stage, and then you are confused, you are not able to focus on one particular thing, or you have a lot of investments, which gives you 3-4 lakh rupees per month automatically. So where to do and what to do? And another question is that I am not convinced with your ideas of future and present, particularly in respect of young generation. Because if young generation who is involved in chatting or doing something with internet age, they are living present. And if they don't see the future or vision, then how they will be growth in the society? If, for instance, my family has few schools, and now I am advising them to start an institute, management institute or computer institute. So if we just feel that schools are okay, then how the growth will come?
If you look deeply, you can see the future in the present, and the present in the future. The future is made of the present. We build future with the present. And if we know how to take good care of the present, if we know how to concentrate and take care of the present moment the best way we can, without intelligence, without compassion, that is the only way to build a future. We cannot build a future just by thinking about future and to worry about the future and to be afraid about the future. Anxiety, worries, and fear will ruin the future. That is why the Buddha advised us not to allow the fear, the anxiety, the uncertainty to pull us away. But if you are established firmly in the present moment, you can make plans for the future. You don't lose yourself in the fear, in the uncertainty, in the anxiety. You can make plans for the future. And you can make plans for the future only when you are truly in the present moment. So it is by dwelling deeply in the present moment, solidly in the present moment, that you can make concrete projects and plans for the future. And you know that the future will be made of the present. If the present is good, compassionate, hopeful, and then the future will be good. So what we should not do is to allow ourselves to be carried away by our fear, our uncertainty, our anxiety about the future. But we can still study the future. We do it in the present moment. The same thing is true with the past. We are advised not to allow the regret and the sorrow concerning the past to carry us away. But we can very well bring the past back to the present in order to have a good look, a deep look. And we can learn a lot from the past. So past, future, present, they are they can be seen at the same time in the present. If you touch the present moment deeply, you touch the past and the future. And if you handle the present the best you can, you are building a good future. And you can even change the past, heal the past. So the teaching here is not to forbid you to learn from the past or to make projects for the future. What is advice here is not to let yourself be carried away by the sorrow, the regret, the fear, anxiety. See, you have to understand the true teaching. Yeah. Thank you. One last question. Huh? Sir. Yeah, it's okay. So please ask the last question.
First of all, thank you so much, Your Holiness. Your calm, your wisdom, your thoughts last all these days have left an indelible mark and have helped to untangle so many of my thoughts. Thank you so much for that. And I have more than one question to ask, so I beseech your patience. First of all, the day you came to India, we already had suffered a lot of terrorist attacks, and a fresh terrorist attack happened, and many people have lost their lives. A statement by you have been carried in many newspapers saying that these terrorists are victims of hatred who are generating hate. Truly so? How do we then? How do we then stop this process of hate? Where do we stop it actually? Since people were losing their loved ones, feel hatred towards the ones who are creating it, and the ones who are creating it are in no mood for change. How to reach them and where to start the process?
So Binta is talking about how to solve the cycle of violence, and she's saying that the people who do the violence, they don't want to change, and the people who are hurt, they don't know where to start. So where's the place we can start?
You can start everywhere, anywhere, and now. There are terrorists who have already died with other people. There are terrorists are still alive and will die one day with other people. And there are terrorists to be. They are not terrorists now, but if they continue to listen, to hear, to receive information like they do today, and tomorrow, after tomorrow, they will become a terrorist. We have to recognize them all around us and maybe in us. That the lack of understanding, the inability to listen to each other is responsible. So we can begin by practicing listening. And we know that we may not be ready to listen yet because we still have a lot of worries and fear, and we cannot listen. So do something right away, like breathing, walking, sitting, smiling, relaxing, in order to make ourselves more available for other people and listen to them. That is what each one should do, and do it now. We should listen to our own suffering, and after that, we feel relief, and we listen to the suffering of other people, terrorists to be, and terrorists who are already there. And then the second thing we have already said, that is a practice of mindful consumption. They consume the news, the information, they consume anger, hate, and so on. And so they get that kind of energy that make them despair, violent, angry, and so on. So there are things, concrete things like that that you can do right away in our family, in our workplace, and we invite other people to do the same, whether they are journalists, or filmmakers, or politicians, or business leaders. Every one of us has to begin. We have to help other people to wake up like we have, so that we be able to do it together. And waking up is the business of a Buddha. And we know that one Buddha is not enough now. We should have many Buddhas. And each of us has to be Buddha. We have to wake up. And only collective awakening can help. Thank you. I think we have to end now. Thank you.
Since you started the journey,
Thank you.
Thank you.